Hey Blair, Devin here. It was so good to watch your most latest video about how you are getting a car and you're not sure about what life is going on, and you got to see Katie, and super happy that you got to see Katie, and I could see it in your eyes that you really appreciated seeing Katie, so I'm super happy for you about that. And I'm thankful that you responded to some of the thoughts that I had posted a little bit ago. Firstly, on the momentum, I think that you're right that the whole forces interacting within whatever your boundary is of your momentum, that doesn't make this whole spherical momentum thing work unless you stretch your origin of your spherical momentum way out to infinity. Then things would work, but then it looks a lot like the linear momentum that we are so used to using. So that's a stretch. As for Hangman, I really appreciated your final note on having a funny word that's going to jump out to the whoever you are playing with. But I do feel that you were not fair. I think that you accused me, if you will, of not being a good Hangman player when I think that I was just learning how to play better, and that's the smart thing to do. I really did also appreciate your story about how you named your car and about Geronimo. I know that his name wasn't that, but I couldn't quite catch what the pronunciation of his name was. And I do like that he was all into algebra, and I had to notice that you got particularly excited when you were talking about the chapters at the end of his book that were all about how he was learning how to cheat at different games, when really that's just learning to play, like in Hangman. I do think that we have some differences in opinion on what playing and learning to play and cheating are, but perhaps we can move past those for now. I just got your Facebook message about the inverse of sine of 1 degree being almost equal to 1 radian's worth of degrees. And yes, that is interesting. I never came across that before. But yeah, I think that there's something there in that it's cool, but I don't think that there's any proof of that being so, because if I remember correctly, the Babylonians invented the 360 degrees in a circle. Why? Because a circle is a perfect thing, and there are 360 days in a year, obviously, so there should be 360 degrees in a circle. It's a little bit silly, but that's the story that I heard. I also think that it was cool when I learned that there are minutes and seconds in a circle too, that each degree is divided into 60 minutes and each minute is divided into 60 seconds. So that's convenient because 60 and 60 and 360, they all kind of go together in that way. But I'm sorry, I don't think that there's anything to do with radians, in part because pi is an irrational number, so there's no real good way to go between the two without using fractions with irrational numbers in it, being pi particularly. But thanks for pointing that out. I do appreciate it. It's really just a crazy random happenstance. Which, Dr. Horrible, I really wish that he would make Neil Patrick Harris and whoever the director was would make a prequel. I've heard of people talk about them making a sequel, but nobody's really mentioned them talking about making a prequel. But I want to know who this Johnny Snow guy is. I want to know what he did for his PhD project. How did he become the doctor he is today? And I think that there could be some good musicals in there too. I look forward to that prequel when, let's have faith, when it does come out. I really look forward to watching that prequel, perhaps with you. That'd be fantastic. You mentioned work, that work was going a little slow, that you didn't seem to have a whole lot to do, and I acknowledge that being given work and working hard at it is biblically accurate, and I'm full proponent of that. And I do also agree that it is really hard to do such a thing when you don't have work to do. I have been fortunate enough to be blessed with work to do, even if it isn't particularly interesting work. Most of this work is because I'm a little bit more useful than I was when I first came in, and I would hope so because I've been there for about 6 months in this particular position, just long enough that my manager and my team lead decided that it would be suitable for me to be moved to a different position. They say temporarily, and I think I believe them that it's only temporarily, only a couple months. But at Boeing, sometimes temporarily means for the rest of your career. So we'll see what happens. I think that it will be a good learning opportunity because right now I'm on the 767 tanker program, which is a bit of a firestorm because it's a new airplane that they're trying to pump out, which means that there's a whole bunch of things that the mechanics find aren't good enough when they are building the airplane for the first few times. I'm being moved to the 747, which is pretty well established. It took first flight in 1965 or 67 or something like that. So it's been around for a long time. They've made modifications to it, made different derivatives, as we call them. But for the most part, the airplane is the same and things are pretty steady at this point. Hopefully I will be able to have some calmer waters so that I can learn a little bit more than I've been able to learn in this helter-skelter firestorm that I've parachuted in. We'll see what happens. School-wise, things are going well. There's a final project coming up and a final presentation coming up, and the project and the presentation are not related, which peeves me a little bit that I can't get credit for both for the same amount of work. But grad school will be as it will. And I think that we all remember going into finals. I won't have a final in this class, which is nice, just final presentation and final project, but no final exam, which should be convenient. But still, with this whole finals thing coming up, I think of, the places one simply does not go. And I hope that you caught that was a mix of Dr. Seuss and The Lord of the Rings. I saw a t-shirt with that saying on it, the places one simply does not go. And it made me very happy inside, despite the gloomy and sinister Great Eye and the Tower of Doom, the Mountain of Doom. But the font of Dr. Seuss was quite uplifting, and it made me happy, I think, despite the dreariness of the statement that it was giving. I hope that you've noticed that I'm growing a little bit more of a mustache. Michaela was sick this past weekend, and I decided that I wasn't going to shave since she was sick. Shifty eyes. But she's well this weekend, which I'm happy for, which also means that I'm probably going to have to shave this tonight or tomorrow. She said that she's letting the beard stay, but she's not particularly interested in mustache. I'm trying to win her over, but so far hasn't been a whole lot of luck. Little disappointment, but that's okay. I remember that you mentioned something about an important lesson that we've learned in our childhood and your send-off, and that got me to thinking, what have my parents taught me that stands out in particular as being important for who I am today? And one of them was my parents taught me to like all kinds of food. And that kind of seems silly, but there are so many great reasons to like so many different kinds of food. One, because there's so many experiences that you get to enjoy, and so many different people that you get to enjoy them with, in different places that you could enjoy them in, if you like enough food to go around. However, even though I try to stretch this, as I often do, and think of the implications behind it, that it's also helped me to look for the good in all kinds of people, just like I look for the good in all kinds of food, and I try to like all kinds of people like I like all kinds of food, and that is something I try to do, and I think I told you something about that at one point. And I think you posted about it on Facebook. There's a record, we can go find it. Maybe this whole food stretch to liking people thing is a little bit far-fetched, but when I thought a little bit more about your challenge, or thought challenge, I think that my real answer, or my better answer would be that my parents taught me to be respectful. And I think it goes without saying that that's a really good lesson to be taught by your parents and to carry on into the rest of your life. But I'm curious, what did your parents teach you that really stood out? I'd love to know about it. I also have a question that I came up with that I'd love to hear the answer to. How do you keep an active mind? How do you keep your mind actively learning and growing? Remember when I mentioned to you that I've got different boxes of my life? Well, one of them is my mental box, and I want to keep that mental box healthily growing, just like I want to keep myself physically growing. And I do want to get that extra third of an inch taller so that I can be 6 feet. That might not happen, but I'm trying to maintain the height that I already have by not drinking coffee. No, I just don't like coffee. But not drinking coffee is sure to help. At least that's what I'm telling myself. Anyway, the mental box. I divide my mental box into two main sections, and one of them is the technical section, and one of them is the artistic section. And I try to keep them in some amount of balance. I do technical things as a profession, and I do school, which is quite technical, and I read about technical things online, and I watch technical videos online, and I'm definitely trying to keep my technical side up. But particularly what I want to ask you is, how do you keep your artistic side up? Like, I read comics, and I think that humor is an important part of your mental smartness on the artistic side. And I'm reading Dracula, even though I've started reading that in something like sophomore year of college, and I'm still working on it. I'm getting close to finishing. I'm sure that I will notify you when I finally do finish. Also, I like watching, not that I like watching movies all the time, but when I do watch movies, we're looking for the artistic elements that help make the movie what it is, and particularly, I love the evolution of stories. For example, I recently watched an old 1995 movie with my parents called Clueless. It featured Will Smith. That was kind of fun to see him so young and with braces, and they mentioned Bel Air, and it was funny. In any case, Clueless is an adaptation in some ways of the story Emma, or at least what I know about the story Emma. And I thought that it was great, that the little bit that I knew about Emma was very well expressed in this 1995 movie about a girl who lives in, not the Hamptons, not Hollywood, just right out, 90210, Beverly Hills, there we go. And she's rich, and she is trying to set people up with other people, and I went, oh, this is the story of Emma. Or at least my mom did, and then I caught on after that, because my mom's smart, and she's teaching me how to be smarter like that too. Question stands. How do you keep the artistic side of your mind healthy and growing? I'd love to hear about it. Good talking with you. God bless you, and I look forward to hearing back from you soon.